The Democratic Party is filled with a bunch of actors from Senator Alex Padilla, Gavin Newsom, so on, etc. I'm going to be talking to you about the No Kings movement. I haven't spoken to you about this as of yet. And the No Kings movement's fool me once dilemma. Remember, the authoritarian party is actually today's Democratic Party. These are the people that persecuted pro-lifers. These are the people that imposed COVID lockdowns on all of us. These are the people that tried to censor conservatives. These are the people that weaponized the DOJ against Donald Trump. These are the people that said, hey, listen, Democrats, Kamala Harris is going to be your nominee, whether you like it or not. You better shut up and take it. All right. So they are the authoritarian party. We're going to get into it because I'm telling you, the No Kings movement is dead on arrival. You're listening to the Carl Jackson Show. This is your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. We've got video to go along with the point that I'm going to be making today, how it was Joe Biden and the Democrat Party that are the real authoritarians inside of the United States. And no, I'm not going to compare them to Hitler and do something crazy like that, like the left always does. But guys, we were really living under an authoritarian under the Biden regime. Now, we do know the auto pen was very active during that administration. These are some of the things that we've learned, but the Democrat Party is absolutely reeling. They don't know where to go. The No Kings movement, as many of you heard, were filled with people all across the United States, a bunch of left-wing liberals, and I'm talking about the most progressive people within the Democrat Party that had paid and staged protests. Now, for sure, that wasn't all of the people, but that was a good portion of the people. And many of the people that were involved in these protests happened to be more middle-aged white liberals. And so this was mostly a stage event. And those people that came out that watched or that participated in the No Kings movement, if they were older white liberals, these are the people that tune in to CNN. These are the people that tune in to MSNBC and get their brains washed on a daily basis. So that's basically what you saw. But if the No Kings movement is what the Democrat Party has to offer, they're in a heap of trouble. They're in a heap of trouble. And I'm going to explain to you why, but I do want to take you down a trip down memory lane and talk to you about Joe Biden, because I want to prove to you who the real authoritarians are. And frankly, the authoritarian party in the United States, for the most part, has always been the Democrat Party. And that's not to say all of their voters are. Many of their voters have great intentions, right? But I'll show you, especially in the Biden administration, how this party, the Democrat Party, is the party of authoritarianism. And frankly, we've seen that they're the party of domestic terrorists. We saw that with the KKK. We saw how they, imposed Jim Crow laws in the South. This is the Democrat Party. We've seen the open borders. I'll get into that momentarily. All they wanted, they're still into slavery. This is what the illegal immigration is about. They want a bunch of people to work menial jobs and continue to give them power. That's exactly what they did during the slave trade. The Democrat Party, obviously, they don't use whips and chains today, but essentially they hold immigration, or they hold citizenship, or dangle citizenship over the heads of a bunch of illegals. And this is absolutely crazy. Trump is dealing with that. Trump has said many things. Some of the messages have been a little confusing the last couple of days, but I think Trump is coming back around. He wants to get the criminal element of the illegals out of this country, which is a good thing. But he wanted to take it, Tom Homan to be a little lighter, or at least ICE to be a little lighter, or more commonsensical, I guess you could say. Is that a word, sensical? I guess you could say when it comes to the hospitality industry and all of these industries. I don't think that should happen. Frankly, I think illegal immigration is illegal immigration. I'm totally fine with work visas, people that want to come over into the United States and work different jobs. But there's plenty of immigrants. There's plenty of American citizens that will work those jobs for decent pay. And that is what needs to happen. We need to stop trying to drive wages down for the American citizen and make sure that people that need these jobs and good starter jobs can fill these positions and stop using illegals for slave type labor. To get the most out of them for the least amount of money. That's sad to me. That's sad to me. We are the only country in the world, besides Canada, I believe, that's dumb enough to allow open borders. and then we'll fight for the illegals, but we won't fight for the American citizens. So let me take you back a trip down memory lane, just as I promised. The left celebrated Joe Biden for 4 years, despite the fact that now they're coming out in books like Original Sin, that Jake Tapper, who was complicit in the cover-up of Joe Biden's mental acuity for 4 years, now coming out and spilling the beans on Joe Biden and everything that was happening behind the scenes. Alex Thompson of Axios as well, who actually wrote the book, I believe. And then you had Jake Tapper that just put his name on it. We've talked about that before, but the left continues to claim that it's Trump that's overreaching. It's Trump or that overreaches. It's Trump that must be stopped. There was a great article in AMAC or at AMAC.com. Joe Biden was the real authoritarian. And actually, this was written a couple of months ago, but it still had some great points, obviously, when you consider Joe Biden's presidency, that I think it's worth mulling over. Recently on X, New York Times columnist David French wrote about Trump. This man is governing as if his faction will never, ever lose power. He goes on to write of Trump, yet every power he unlocks for himself, he unlocks for his opponents. He's not winning. He's opening America to an unsustainable pattern of mutual destruction and vengeance. So these people are the real authoritarians, but this is what drives me nuts about this movement, this No Kings movement, which isn't a movement at all. The problem is we've been there, done that. It's the whole fool me once dilemma. These are the people on the left that have acted like little tyrants, especially in the last 4 plus years, that have acted like authoritarians. You're not going to fool us again. It was the Democrat Party that went after pro-lifers again. It was the Democrat Party that imposed COVID lockdowns. It was the Democrat Party that sat down and watched cities across America burn during the BLM and Antifa riots in 2020. They're doing it again, and now it's these Antifa type antagonizers out there on the streets of Los Angeles and different cities like Chicago and New York, around the country, different blue cities. And we're watching all of this and we're like, we've been there. We've seen this before. We know what you guys are up to. The problem with the left is they're about protests, not about progress. They don't have any ideas. They're a bunch of actors. We'll get into some video momentarily. You got Senator Alex Padilla, who nobody knew. I didn't even know this fool a week ago. You didn't know him a week ago until he crashed in on Kristi Noem's whatever she was doing on the Hill, the meeting or whatever that she had, or press conference or whatever, and tried his best, brought his little team, his camera crew, because he wanted to cause disruption so that he could be known. That's all the left has, is political theater. There's no substance. There's no ideas. There's no ideas. But when they do get in power, they are the authoritarians. And that's what I want to remind you of. Actually, let's do this. If you could get cut number 12 ready. I want to play a clip of Amy Klobuchar. Amy Klobuchar is the senator in Minnesota. And obviously, and I'll get to this as well a little later, I do want to talk about the mysterious assassin of Minnesota. There's something about that case that just does not seem right to me. So I'll get into that perhaps in another podcast. I just want to read a little more. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but everybody's trying to tag this guy as a Trump supporter. He may well be. He may well just be nuts. But there's something that just doesn't seem right to me. And so I want to make sure I talk about that. But let me go to this video clip of Amy Klobuchar. If we could go to clip number 12, por favor, Gabe.
Senator, you talked about bringing the temperature down. It feels like the temperature's only rising, right? The threats against lawmakers, but at the federal, state, and local level. Can you talk a little bit about that? Being a U.S. senator, are you seeing a massive surge in threats? Are you taking precautions? Are you guys getting more security compared to, say, a couple years ago?
We have been, certainly in the last few days here in Minnesota, a number of elected leaders have received more security, and I thank Senator Thune and Senator Schumer for asking for that security on the Senate side. But what And when I was chair of the Rules Committee, I worked really hard to get more security for members' homes and offices. And that is because of the facts. 2016, there were about 1,700 threats against members of Congress. Now, in the last year of 2024, there were over 9,000 threats. You're seeing the same in the judiciary with judges appointed by both Republican and Democratic presidents and governors. You're seeing the same thing with election judges. People are reading things online. This is just my view. This is a lot of it. Look at the unbalanced sick man who bludgeoned Speaker Pelosi's husband. They read things online. They believe them. They start acting them out. They already are imbalanced themselves, and they actually go do what they're reading online. So that has been a contributor, as well as, of course, a lot of hateful rhetoric. And there's a lot of politicians that should be looking in the mirror and bring their rhetoric down.
All right, maybe it's the Democrat Party that should bring their rhetoric down when you look at shows like CNN, when you look at shows like MSNBC, shows where you have talent on there, quote unquote, that have literally called Trump Hitler or Hitler-esque or acting like Hitler. So perhaps it is the left that needs to bring the temperature down, because it is the left by far that caused the chaos. And then you guys try to fix the chaos that you caused. We'll be back. So the left wants you to believe that it's Donald Trump who's the authoritarian. It's Donald Trump who's the king. But it's funny to me, Donald Trump is anything but a king. It's not just me. Haven't you seen that most of everything this man has tried to do, whether it's with illegal immigration, whether it's fighting back against these brainwashing institutions such as Harvard. He gets slapped with lawsuits all of the time. I'm not the only one that makes this point. Basically, our system is working, even though I think it is working a bunch of leftists inside of the judiciary, in my opinion, that are working and doing their best to try to slow the Trump administration down. That is my view. That is my opinion. But nonetheless, it makes no sense to say that Donald Trump is a king, especially when you see people protesting across the country in blue states. If Donald Trump was a king, you wouldn't be out there protesting. That's for sure. I mean, it just makes no sense. But this is what these people believe. And again, these are the ones, the people on the left, the Biden administration, was an authoritarian administration, in my opinion. I gave you some examples. CNN, another liberal commentator on CNN, I told you about David French earlier of the New York Times. Here's what CNN asked viewers regarding Donald Trump. Well, what happens the next 4 years from now when a Democrat is in office? What happens when President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez decides to use the same powers that the president has now expanded? What powers has he expanded, CNN? What powers has he expanded? I mean, this is fascinating to me, but liberals are totally tone deaf. Again, the reason why the No Kings movement, it was a big flop. I see online, I can see you go on X and you go on Instagram, you'll see these pictures, you'll see these memes. Even Gavin Newsom was out there tweeting out, oh, look at our crowds compared to Trump. Now, a lot of these people in the No Kings movement were paid. And even though they weren't paid, you're talking about the base, the radical base, the progressive base. That's not enough to win a country. That's why most of these protests were done in blue states and in blue cities. There were some done here in Florida. There's no doubt about it. Actually, I passed by one. When I passed by, there were probably about 10 people out there and only 2 walking the street, and the rest were sitting in shade. The rest were sitting in shade with some silly signs and talking amongst each other. So it's not. I mean, some of the protests were large. Some of them were smaller, like the one that I saw. But basically, they were a joke. These are people that are going to vote for the left no matter what. They're going to vote for the Democrat Party no matter what. They're going to vote for the radicals in the Democrat Party no matter what. But you have the Biden presidency, the Biden administration. During his entire presidency, he used his office to shield his family from accountability. We'll talk about Pardongate momentarily, just to remind you of that. He hid his own potential criminal activities. He weaponized the government against President Trump. And but for some reason, these are the people that they say we need to be or they pretend as if they need to be worried about conservatives when it's completely the other way around. Do you guys recall when Joe Biden, Biden's DOJ tried to again give a sweetheart deal to Hunter Biden? Absolutely insane. Was it drug charges or a gun charge, tax charges? He was going to walk into, or in fact, he did walk into the courtroom, and not only was he going to get a sweetheart deal on the crimes that he had committed, but anything he had done over the past decade was what Biden's DOJ was seeking to do at the time. And the judge looked at this and she was like, are you talking about immunity for like not just this, but years back and all this kind of stuff, whatever could come? And she was like, this isn't flying. Obviously that's not exactly what she said. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially the gist of it. This is an authoritarian party. They watched this happen. They knew what was happening and they said nothing about it. You had the IRS whistleblowers. You guys may remember them. Gary Shapley, by the way, they've been promoted in their IRS, and Joseph Ziegler revealed the systemic interference with Biden's DOJ's Hunter Biden investigation, including the fact that the DOJ rejected more serious potential charges. They blocked critical evidence from Biden's laptop and strategically limited the investigation scope. You guys remember all of that, but it's Trump who's the authoritarian, right? Then we have Pardongate, which probably was done by the auto pen or whoever helped the auto pen, whoever was in charge of the auto pen. But you had a flood of pardons and grants and clemencies for everyone from a convicted double murderer to Democratic members of the J6 committee. I'm sure you guys remember that. Again, Joe Biden's family. You guys do remember what happened in Mar-a-Lago, the Mar-a-Lago raid, absolutely unprecedented. For the first time in American history, you had a sitting president that authorized federal agents to conduct what basically was political intimidation against his opponent. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, it was Joe Biden that had classified documents inside of his garage while he was vice president and senator. Which means that was illegal. This is amazing to me. But this is where we are. The left projects what they do onto us. It is the left party, and basically the Democrat Party is a left-wing party. It's a party of all they have is, again, it's political theatrics. It's a bunch of protests, but there's no progress because there's no ideas. These people are going to take you back. I want to give you some examples. This is Senator Alex Padilla. This is Gabe's best friend. Clip number 9. Gabe and him, they hang out all the time. Just kidding. But the Senator Alex Padilla that nobody knew a week ago. But here he is on clip number 9. This is Senator Alex Padilla. Remember, he just busted in to Kristi Noem's meeting or press conference about a week ago in order to get his name in the lights, to get his face on camera. He brought his little team, his staff with him so that they could record, so he could cause a spectacle. And so we would be saying his name, Alex Padilla, because now we know who Alex Padilla is. But he's nothing but a numbskull. But here he is. Clip number 9, por favor, Gabe.
I was forced to the ground. First on my knees, and then flat on my chest. And as I was handcuffed and marched down a hallway, repeatedly asking, why am I being detained? Not once did they tell me why. I pray you never have a moment like this. But I will tell you, in that moment, a lot of questions came to my mind. First of all, where are they taking me? Because I know I'm not just being escorted out of the building. Am I being arrested here? And what will a city already on edge from being militarized think when they see their United States senator being handcuffed just for trying to ask a question?
Okay, you soft jack arse. Listen, nobody even knew who this guy was, including his constituents. including his constituents. Nobody knew who he was. And this is a guy, he was seeking out attention. He barged into that room. He didn't announce who he was. They thought he was a stranger trying to attack the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. So they took his butt down like they should have taken his butt down. And he did all that so that he could have this moment on the floor. The guy's a fraud. He's an actor, and he's not even a good one. They put me on my chest. Who talks like that? Who talks like that? And look, I don't even take his little tears seriously. He was I'm talking like this so I can build up my emotions so I can cause tears. No wonder men don't want to vote for the Democrat Party when you get little jack arches like that. Oh my goodness. I cannot take it. But all these people want is power. They can't do anything for you. They want power. Again, I got more clips that I'll play for you. Let me take you back to the Twitter files. We talked about Mar-a-Lago. Remember the Twitter files? The left didn't want to make a big deal about this, but they should have. Biden waged warfare, open warfare on the First Amendment with the Twitter files, showing that his administration literally pressured social media companies to silence dissenting views on the COVID-19 pandemic. A sitting president went to the heads of these corporations, to these social media corporations, and said, cancel out dissenting voices, not just conservative voices, but dissenting voices. Obviously, you got people like Matt Taibbi, who were, Democrats that are now more independent minded. Michael Schellenberger, the same thing, that took a look at these things and like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely insane. You had Zuckerberg that admitted that the Biden administration pressured Facebook to censor COVID-19. And then you had the Biden administration that defied the Supreme Court of the United States. First, it was with the student loan forgiveness scheme. Later, Biden attempted to unilaterally impose an eviction moratorium. You guys may remember that he himself likely said wouldn't survive judicial review. So remember that, the eviction moratorium during COVID, when you had landlords who were losing rent money, that were going to lose their properties, and the people paying rent didn't have to pay rent. Just absolutely insane. And yet that was Joe Biden, not to mention he abused the EPA and exceeded his authority there. All right, we'll be back with more.